Arianne de Montesquieu
by Arianne Delos Santos
Lawrence Wu
and Chandel Anaen.
Charles II, more commonly known as Baron de Montesquieu, was a French author, philosopher, government official, and legal professional. Born on January 18, 1689, he was best known for his ideas on the separation of powers. His articulation on the separation of powers became the basis for many constitutions around the world. He wrote the famous book, The Spirit of Laws, which was a major contribution to the political theory. He died on February 10, 1755, at the age of 66, in his home in Bordeaux, France.
Charles de Secondat's father belonged to an old military family of modest wealth, and his grandfather was the president of the Bordeaux Parliament. His mother, Marie-Françoise de Pesnel, brought great wealth to her husband with her family's wine-producing property. Born into a rich and prosperous home, he was sent to Collège de Juilly near Paris in 1700. After attending Collège de Juilly, he studied at the University of Bordeaux in the Faculty of Law. He continued his legal studies in Paris and returned to Le Bret to manage his inherited estates in 1713 when his father died. Following the year after his father's death, he became a counselor in the criminal court in the Bordeaux Parliament. Then, in 1715, he married Jeanne de Lartigue, a wealthy practicing Protestant, and when his uncle died in 1716, he inherited the title Baron de Montesquieu and also inherited the office of Président en Mortier in the Parliament of Bordeaux.
Montesquieu, for a while, devoted his life to literature. He is famous for many of the works he's done in the past. One book he's written is Lettres Persantes, or The Persian Letters, written in 1721. It gave a brilliant and ironic picture of the Parisian and French civilization. The novel recounts the experiences of Uzbek and Rika, two Persian noblemen who are traveling through France. It also mocks the reign of King Louis XIV, teased and mocked at all the social classes, and compared the Christian and Islamic group continuously. The work heavily criticized the lifestyles and liberties of the wealthy French as well as the church. The book was first anonymous, but once it was released that he was the author, Montesquieu became famous.
The most well-known and the most impactful is de l'Esprit des Lois, or The Spirit of Laws, which was published in 1748. It was and is considered as a major contribution to political theory. In the history of jurisprudence, or the theoretical study of law, it is considered as one of the greatest works. He assigned to each form of government an animating principle: republic based on virtue, monarchy based on honor, and despotism based on fear. The United States Constitution, as well as many other constitutions around the world, such as in Australia, the United Kingdom, and Italy, used the separation of powers in their own constitutions. The Declaration of the Rights of Man, which explains a list of rights and was one of the most important papers during the French Revolution, also includes the separation of powers. In the volume, he proposes the controversial theory that geography and climate can influence the nature of men and societies. He believed that people that live in colder climates are more vigorous and have a sense of superiority, while those living in warmer climates are weaker and less ambitious.
Montesquieu believed that man is naturally moral but corrupted by society. He states in The Spirit of Laws, quote, "In a true state of nature, all men are born equal, but they cannot continue in this equality. Society makes them lose it." End quote. This exemplifies that distrust in others would lead to abuse of powers. He also states, quote, "Constant experience shows us that every man invested with power is apt to abuse it." End quote. Views like these are perhaps what led him to strongly support the spreading of equal powers towards different branches of government. He believed this would protect themselves from tyrannical rules.
While Montesquieu impacted many of the people of his time, his influence has reached even our world today, mostly with his ideas of the separation of powers, which was, once again, the basis of many constitutions, which are of course a part of our daily lives. He took the view that power should be separated so that no one person could usurp real power. He found that creating 3 separate branches with different but equal powers would avoid governments placing too much power on only one specific group. He said himself that government should be set up so that no man need be afraid of another.
Montesquieu is best known for his articulation on the separation of powers. But what exactly is it? The separation of powers refers to the division of government responsibilities into distinct branches to limit any one branch from exercising the core functions of another. For example, in the United States government, the legislative branch is responsible for enacting the laws of the state. The executive branch is responsible for implementing and administering the public policy enacted, and the judicial branch is responsible for interpreting the Constitution and laws. This avoids the government from putting too much power in the hands of a single person or group. Needless to say, the separation of powers is essential to making sure the government is balanced and in check.
Montesquieu influenced many people during the Enlightenment period. One of the most heavily influenced by him was Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Similar to Montesquieu, Rousseau believed that man was naturally good but corrupted by society. Rousseau also released one of the most famous works on political theory called The Social Contract. He argued that the general will of the people could not be decided by elected representatives. He believed in a direct democracy in which everyone voted to express the general will and to make the laws of the land. Unlike Montesquieu, who supported the separation of powers, Rousseau believed all political power must reside with the people exercising their general will. In Rousseau's ideal government, there would be mere officials who received their orders from the people. Needless to say, both Rousseau and Montesquieu did not support monarchy, but instead supported their own ideal forms of government.
While Montesquieu influenced many of the people of his time, he too was heavily shaped by people who inspired him, Aristotle and John Locke, to name just a few. In many ways, Aristotle's Politics and Montesquieu's The Spirit of Laws seem to be both complementary and antithetical works. Aristotle describes the role that politics and the political community play in bringing about the virtuous life in the citizenry. He also preferred constitutional government, and just as well, Montesquieu influenced many writers of constitutions everywhere. John Locke and Montesquieu also share many similarities in their opinions. Locke claimed that men are by nature free and equal, against the claims at the time that God had made all people subject to the rule of a monarch. It is already known that Montesquieu also despised monarchy, for he believed it would lead to despotism, or power in a cruel and oppressive way.
An author, philosopher, and government official who influenced many during his time and even after his time, Montesquieu's legacy lives on.
By the time of his death, Montesquieu had gone completely blind due to previous problems with his eyesight. Baron de Montesquieu died on February 10, 1755, due to high fever in his home in Bordeaux, France. He was 66 years old.
Best known for his impact on our own government, Montesquieu continues to affect our daily lives even 263 years after his death.
Thanks for watching! Lauren!